You were taught to be nice, to smile before you speak, soften every edge, pad every request with apologies and disclaimers, to carry the weight of other people's comfort so the room would reward you with approval. You learned the scripts early, just checking in, no worries if not, I can be flexible, totally fine either way. You learned to shine your shoes for other people's standards and to thank them for stepping on your toes. You believed niceness was a currency that could be traded for safety. You believed that if you were consistently agreeable, consistently available, consistently understanding, the world would take care of you. Look around. The nicest people you know are overbooked and underpaid, ever-present but rarely preferred. They are praised when labor is needed and forgotten when power is allocated. They are the first to show up and the last to be consulted. Why? Because the world is not organized around kindness. It is organized around necessity. And here is the shocking truth no one said out loud. The necessary person gets to be kind on their terms. The merely nice person doesn't get terms at all. Nice is how low-power people beg for safety. Necessary is how high-power people build it. This is not a sermon against kindness. It's a funeral for the superstition that unbounded niceness is a strategy. Niceness is decoration. Necessity is infrastructure. People worship infrastructure, not because they are moral, but because without it the lights go out, the air turns stale, the money stops moving. You do not need to raise your voice to be necessary. You need to become the person whose absence breaks something important. The day your absence costs more than your presence, your price changes without a debate. Your boundaries stand without a speech. Your calendar obeys you without a fight. That is the day status starts walking toward you instead of you running after it with a smile. Ask the question that hurts. If you went completely silent for 2 weeks, what would actually stop working? Would a system stall? Would a team lose its map? Would a client feel a measurable outage? Would a decision freeze because you're the only person who can own it? If the answer is no, if all that would vanish is your pleasant tone and your fast replies, then you are not necessary yet. You are pleasant. You are helpful. You are replaceable by anyone with fewer needs and a lower bill who can say, of course, with the same brightness in their eyes. That should anger you. Good. Aim that anger at architecture, because necessity isn't bestowed by compliments, it is engineered by design. Necessity is built brick by brick in places where other people won't go. Bottlenecks, ugly truths, silent risks, messy handoffs, final accountability. Niceness is happy to be invited. Necessity is demanded by the work. Niceness adds warmth. Necessity sets the standard. Niceness is a performance. Necessity is a protocol. When you are necessary, your voice weighs more precisely because you don't spend it on being liked. When you are necessary, you can be kind without being harvested for it. When you are necessary, your no ends arguments. Your yes ends doubt. The first shift is psychological. Stop bargaining with likability. You have been paying a tax to preempt other people's discomfort. You apologize for asking, for existing, for wanting sleep, for saying no, for wanting to be paid on time. You feed the room soft language like sugar, and the room becomes diabetic, needing more sweetness to tolerate the taste of truth. If your boundary requires their understanding, it is not a boundary. It is a plea wrapped in adjectives. If your price requires their sympathy, it is not a price. It is a wish pinned to a mood. If your schedule requires their blessing, it is not a schedule. It is theater. Stop trading paragraphs for permission. The necessary do not beg the weather to be kind. They build a roof. The second shift is architectural. Replace heroic niceness with systems that make heroics unnecessary. Nice people remove friction by offering themselves for sacrifice. Necessary people remove friction by redesigning the path. The former gives a fish and feels good. The latter fixes the net and disappears. If every week you glue chaos together with extra hours and gentle phrasing, you are a pleasant patch over rot. The moment you stop, the rot returns. No one learns anything except that you will save them again. If, instead, you collapse 5 arguments into one diagram, codify expectations in a one-page standard, carve a clean escalation path, and enforce it, you become a structural answer. Structural answers are addictive because they relieve everyone of the cost of confusion. They reorganize teams around themselves without you needing to caper for attention. Your necessity isn't the drama you absorb, it is the entropy you prevent. The third shift is strategic. Stand next to the valve no one else can turn. Every environment has a bottleneck, the scarce competence that governs the pace of everything else. Sometimes it's distribution, sometimes it's integration, sometimes it's trust with a key stakeholder, sometimes it's clean data, sometimes it's the nerve to tell the truth before the deadline. Find the bottleneck, train on it until your blood knows it. Become fluent where everyone else is clumsy. When the valve sticks, you are the one with the wrench. People stop asking if you're available. They start asking when you can be there. And when they can't find you, they don't smile sadly and say, "Oh well." They pause the room. That pause is the sound of necessity. The fourth shift is rhythmic. Build reliability with a spine. Niceness says yes quickly and delivers eventually. Necessity commits carefully and delivers exactly. People think reliability is about working more hours or answering faster. It is usually about promising less and hitting it like a metronome. Ship when you said you would. Invoice when you said you would. Say no when the ask would break the schedule that everyone already depends on. Rhythm beats enthusiasm because rhythm creates planning. The person who delivers like a clock becomes the person the room anchors around. And the clock does not explain itself, it ticks. The band could argue the tempo or it could tune to it. Guess which yields music? There is a trap here. Do not mistake martyrdom for necessity. Martyrdom says, "I'll fix it." Necessity says, "Here's the system. Use it or we stop." Martyrs are loved until they are empty. Necessary people are obeyed because they keep the water clean. If your value depends on your exhaustion, you didn't build leverage. You built a syringe others will return to your arm the moment they feel anxious. True necessity survives your vacation. It survives your silence. It survives your refusal to be summoned by every ping. If everything collapses the second you rest, you were never important. You were merely plugged into the chaos as a relief valve. Pull the plug. Replace it with rules. Now a deeper lever. Truth density. Niceness stretches language into comfort. Necessity packs language into clarity. One sentence that sets the frame replaces 10 sentences that plead for grace. One diagram that shows flow replaces a week of argument. One line in a contract, "We do not discuss scope during delivery," saves 15 back and forths and 3 meltdowns. People chase dense signals because they save time and reduce panic. If your words regularly pay the room in minutes saved, your presence becomes a form of currency. You will be sought, not summoned. Edges follow. Nice people dissolve their edges to fit inside other people's expectations. Necessary people sharpen theirs to guide reality into fewer, cleaner grooves. You need standards that bite. We don't accept scope changes during delivery. We don't respond to non-urgent messages after 7 p.m. We do not proceed without acceptance criteria. We decide on Thursdays, requests arriving Friday roll to next week. Not because you worship rules, but because you worship outcomes, and outcomes die in fog. Every edge you sand down to be liked becomes a place where your work bleeds. You are not a sponge, you are a tool. Keep it sharp or stop pretending you're building. But won't people think I'm harsh? Some will. The ones who thrived on your permeability will call your integrity cruelty. Let them. You will discover something that feels like betrayal, and then feels like oxygen. The most competent, generous people you know love your edges. They were drowning in other people's nice, endless consenting to everything, followed by endless excuses. Your edges are oxygen for them. Finally, they can sprint without tripping on the fear of someone's feelings. Necessary people become magnets for other necessary people. Rooms that were gossip pits harden into machines. The sound is not clapping. It's the hum of work that does not need a hero. Own a moment others avoid. Every environment has an hour where truth is expensive. Launch day, outage night, board meeting, lawsuit morning, a call with the client who smells weakness. Most people wilt or overact. Walk in quietly, carry sequence, and call the play. We stop the bleeding, we isolate causes, we restore the last known good, we capture the post-mortem while it's warm, we change the clause that made this possible, we enforce it. Calm protocol in panic is more valuable than a year of cheerful meetings. People never forget who steadied their hands when they were shaking. They reorganize their trust around that memory. Your invoice turns into insurance. Your seat ceases to be decorative. Build the invisible account. Trust. Nice people try to deposit with smiles and small favors. Necessary people deposit with precision. Keep confidences perfectly. Break bad news early and cleanly. Admit fault once and then ship the fix. Attribute wins correctly. Protect the absent when the room turns predatory. These behaviors compound into a balance large enough that you don't need a slideshow when you say, "We're doing it this way." The balance pays the interest for you. Trust is the quietest power. It cannot be printed with charm. It must be earned by showing reality exactly what happens when it sends you pain. And once it is earned, niceness becomes optional decoration. Respect becomes default. Do not mistake busyness for necessity. The busiest people are often the least essential. They exist to absorb inefficiency, not to create outcomes. If your day is jammed shoulder to shoulder with quick sinks, you are a drain pipe, not a dam. Necessary people hold spare capacity like a weapon. They say no to noise so they can say yes when the building is actually on fire. The world punishes empty calendars with judgments until it needs you. Then it asks if you have room. Keep room. Room is power. Do not mistake visibility for necessity. The internet taught you to perform usefulness and to measure your worth with engagement. That frame keeps you chasing perception while the necessary quietly earn decisions. Publish by cadence, not compulsion. Ship on the day you said you would. Disappear by design. Rhythm outlives applause. The person known for outcomes arriving on time without theatrics is the person the room instinctively defers to when it matters. Everyone else puts on the drum roll. You bring the drum beat. Now make this operational, not slogans, sequence you can run this week. You begin by picking the bottleneck. If you don't know it, watch where projects die. That's your altar. Often it is handoffs, decisions, or data. Become the person who ends the death there. Learn the tools, the politics, the compliance. Become unstartled when others panic. People do not hand power to the loudest. They hand it to the steadiest at the choke point. You write the one-page standard that turns fog into rails, scope, acceptance criteria, change process, decision rhythm, escalation path. One page, no adjectives, no motivational language, no therapy, just rails. Share it once, enforce it forever. When just one little change arrives later, don't perform indignation. Point to the clause you wrote when everyone was calm. Gravity does the rest. You set decision days and response windows. I decide Thursdays. I reply 11:12 and 4:5. The point is not eccentricity, it is tempo. You will be accused of being unresponsive by people whose nervous systems are unmanaged. Remember that speed is not the same as control. The fastest way to lose authority is to answer at the speed of other people's anxiety. The slow way is a metronome. Be the metronome. You create default options you can live with: 3 packages, 1 target, 3 timelines, 1 recommended, 3 risk profiles, 1 sane. Choice architecture is how you become necessary without being pushy. The room will choose what is easiest to explain. If your path is the only path that doesn't create chaos, your path wins without a speech. You own one crisis calmly. Do not wait for it, simulate it. Run a pre-mortem. If this fails in week 3, what specifically breaks? Once you've answered, price the failure in your clause, redesign the step that would have failed, and commit. You just made yourself cheaper than disaster. Remember, the necessary are not the ones who promise the sun. They are the ones who stop the flood. You cut unpaid niceness. Audit your last 20 yeses, which yielded no leverage, no learning, no loyalty. They die today. Replace them with one yes that hardens a system or deepens a relationship with memory. This hurts. You will be accused of changing. You are changing the contract, moving from "I am nice when you need me" to "I build things you can rely on." Let the accusation ring, then keep building. You make your absence informative. Take a long weekend quietly. What pings you? What breaks? These are the dependencies you must refactor. Necessary people can remove themselves without the building falling. When they return, they remove the weak beam they discovered, not to earn claps, but to ensure next time they can leave without their phone. Freedom is engineered, not granted. You bank truth. Tell one hard truth this week with surgical language and 0 performance. We will miss Friday unless we cut this feature. No drama, just math. Watch who calms down around calm truth. Those are your people. Watch who tries to bait you into niceness, into hoping that feelings can pay debt. Those are not your people. Spend accordingly. You protect your edges in public once. Not a tantrum, a rule enforced. The first enforcement costs the most. Pay it. The second costs less. The third is free. After that, the room starts telling each other your rule before you speak. They become the defenders of your standards because your standards guard their sanity too. This is the miracle niceness never achieves. Community around discipline. You prove by outcome cadence. Put weight on the scale the day you promised and walk away. No trumpet, no thread, just mass. The room will talk anyway. It will use your name as a synonym for done. That is not ego, that is physics. Mass bends attention. Your kindness becomes safer the moment your gravity is felt. What does this look like in human scenes? Imagine the client who has learned to weaponize charm. They call you amazing and superhero and one of us, then ask for 3 freebies that blow your milestone. The nice person grins and swallows the scope. The necessary person smiles once and says, "All additions route to phase 2 or reprice at the unit rate we agreed. Which do you prefer?" Silence. The charm evaporates because it has nowhere to cling. The work remains. Later, that same client gives you a referral. Not because you bent, but because you were the first adult they met this quarter. Imagine the team that prides itself on hustle and quietly worships chaos. They love your late-night responses. They love your flexible weekends. They love your bottomless patience. They also keep missing because the system rewards adrenaline, not accuracy. The nice person drinks more coffee and becomes the culture's sponge. The necessary person deletes the dopamine loop. We decide on Thursdays. No non-urgent messages after 7 p.m. No scope discussion in delivery. Errors get a post-mortem, not a punishment. We remove the cause, or we repeat the pain. At first, the room resists. Then the room breathes. Then the room produces. The compliment you hear at the end of the quarter is the only one that matters. It's calmer when you're here. That sentence is worth more than 10, "You're so nice." It is a rumor of necessity. If you fear that becoming necessary will make you cold, remember the geometry. Edges prevent leakage. Warmth fuels motion. Edges without warmth create tyrants. Warmth without edges creates parasites. Be both. Apologize for harm, never for boundaries. Praise publicly with receipts, correct privately with respect, protect the absent, refuse to gossip. If you must disappoint, do it early and cleanly. If you promise, deliver exactly. When you are necessary, your kindness is no longer mined as a resource. It is recognized as a luxury you can afford to give because your infrastructure holds. You will be punished for changing. The people who loved your compliance will call your clarity selfish. The people who harvested your time will call your policy inflexible. The people who fed on your speed will call your rhythm slow. This is the toll road to adulthood. Pay it once. On the other side are the only relationships worth having, those that can stand your edges and appreciate your warmth, because both are real, both are chosen, both are sustainable. Now speak to the oldest lie in your body, that being nice, universally, is the path to being loved. You learned that as a child when love arrived as a reward for compliance. Grown rooms do not love that way. Grown rooms love people who produce conditions where truth is cheap. They love standards that breathe. They love clarity that keeps promises possible. Become that and love will find you in its adult form, reliable respect, predictable trust, shared energy. Until then, cherish the loneliness you will feel in the space between nice and necessary. That loneliness is not a void, it is spare capacity returning to your life. Protect it, use it to think, use it to rest, use it to build the rails that will carry others without needing you to lie under them. Let's make it even finer grained. Habits to install quietly, no announcement, no manifesto. Replace chatter with cadence. Send one weekly summary that states decisions, dates, and risks. No fluff. Replace open doors with office hours. Replace ping me anytime with I reply at 11, 12, and 4, 5. Replace we'll figure it out with here's the play A, then B, then C, then review. Replace sorry for the delay with I answer in Windows, you'll always hear back in the next one. Replace no worries if not with if this doesn't work, we use option B. Replace can we squeeze this with we can add this in phase 2 or remove X now. These replacements seem small. They build a fortress. When compliments arrive designed to buy your compliance, you're so patient, you're always there. You're the only one who can do this. Smile and translate them into system requirements. Patience becomes timelines that remove surprises. Availability becomes an escalation path for real emergencies. Uniqueness becomes documentation so others can help. The flattery that used to own you becomes a spec for a process that protects you. You will feel a strange grief as you retire the identity of the nice one. Let it pass. Identities built on depletion are coffins. When conflict arrives disguised as kindness, we were hoping just this once. It would mean the world. Only you can strip the costume. We don't do one-offs, we do systems. Here are the options. Watch the room mature in real time. Some will leave. Bless their search for a place where nice still promises miracles. Others will exhale because they were exhausted by dependence too. Those are your people. Build with them. They will remember that you built a world where they could stop choosing between being good and being sane. Every so often, you must do the opposite of what your nice training taught you. Let people be disappointed. Let them feel the discomfort of your no. Let them discover that their crisis could be solved without borrowing your life. If they rage, you learn. If they adapt, you build a friend. In both cases, your days become truer. Necessary people do not fear other people's feelings. They respect them while refusing to be governed by them. The difference is dignity. Consider the ultimate test. Can your kindness survive your absence? If your virtue collapses the moment you stop performing it, it was not kindness, it was image management. The necessary person's kindness grows when they're gone because they left behind systems that let other people win without them. That is the generosity that scales. That is the generosity the world repays. There is a long silence in power that nice people find unbearable. You will hear it the first time you let a request hang unanswered for 5 seconds after your clean boundary. You will feel every instinct to fill it, to explain, to justify, to soften. Breathe. Count to 5 in your head. Let the silence work. In that quiet space, people reveal themselves. The manipulator doubles down, the professional nods, the terrified child inside a loud adult calms enough to ask a real question. That is when your necessity becomes visible. Not in the paragraph you didn't send, but in the gravity you did not surrender. You might wonder where love lives in all this talk of edges and systems. It lives exactly where it always did, beyond transaction. When you are necessary, you need less from strangers. You can give more to your people. Your yes to your partner stops being a guilt payment. It becomes a choice. Your attention to your children stops competing with 1,000 false emergencies. It becomes sunlight. Your kindness stops performing. It starts nourishing. The world will say you became less nice. The people who matter will say you became present. Don't be nice. Be necessary. Does that mean cruelty wins? No. It means usefulness at a depth that makes cruelty unnecessary. When you are necessary, you don't demand respect. You generate it as a side effect of clarity. You don't threaten. Your absence is threat enough to chaos. You don't police. Your standards police themselves because they are legible, enforced, and clearly tied to outcomes. You don't gossip. You protect the absent like you plan to work with the present tomorrow. You don't hoard secrets. You document the process so that someone else can succeed when you're gone. You do not perform humility. You do not perform strength. You simply do not leak. If you're waiting for someone to grant you permission to pivot from nice to necessary, here it is. Choose one recurring favor you give for free and replace it with a rule today. Choose one ambiguous request you usually accept and replace it with 3 options you designed. Choose one meeting you attend to be liked and replace it with one memo that makes future meetings shorter. Choose one sorry and replace it with here's how this works. Watch how quickly the world reveals who was with you and who was with your weakness. You may still feel the ache of approval. Let it ache. Let it wash through without running your day. Most people never break that addiction and spend their years becoming expert at being consumed nicely. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to be invaluable. The paradox at the heart of all of this will become clear. The more necessary you become, the nicer you can afford to be. Because you will no longer trade kindness for survival. You will no longer perform sweetness for access. You will be generous because you are grounded, not because you are afraid. When the room next asks for your smile to come with your spine removed, try the smallest revolution you can commit to in a single breath. No. Here's how this works. Then be quiet. Let the silence do more work than any speech. Let the system you built do more work than any apology. Let the rhythm of your delivery do more work than any performance of virtue. If they adjust, they are yours. If they don't, they never were. Either way, your life becomes truer. You're not here to be the person everyone is glad to invite and easy to ignore. You are here to become the person no one can afford to forget. Be the answer to the hardest recurring question. Be the standard that ends arguments. Be the clause that ends chaos. Be the drumbeat that ends suspense. Be the pressure that makes truth cheaper. And if that means fewer smiles from the crowd, take the trade. Crowds don't keep promises. Systems do, outcomes do, necessary people do. If this message stung, let it sting. Pain is the body rejecting an old lie. The lie that niceness buys safety. The lie that self-erasure earns respect. The lie that being agreeable is the same as being valued. Write one sentence you can carry into the next 24 hours and let it rewire your reflexes. I stop performing nice. I start delivering necessary. Then move like a person who is building a world where kindness isn't purchased with your depletion. It is chosen because your presence made depletion optional, and when they ask for more explanation, more apology, more access, you have the calmest answer in the room: no. Here's how this works.